Oh, there we go.
There we go. Looks good.
Okay. So we were a little bit about me and then what the contents for today is. Then we looked at stress from the lens of truth. Then we distinguished between stress scientifically and spiritually. And then we talked about a metaphor, which is the seed. And now we're in science and spirit of stress, where we're merging neuroscience with consciousness. So this is where we were, I think. Yes, this is where we were. So we were looking at what happens inside the brain when we have stress. And we were talking about what naturally our body is supposed to be in, which is homeostasis, which is a balanced state of your body. And we were saying how you need a little bit of the adrenaline, the cortisol that stress gives in your body every day. When you know it's needed for situations when you get out of bed, or when you're catching a running bus, or when you're preparing for your exams, or you're going to speak to your teacher, your professor, your boss, anyone like that. So all of these hormones and mediators are helping you with that. Without that, you would just be doing nothing. So we do need these mediators to help us in our everyday life. But what's interesting is that these same mediators that helps us adapt into these everyday situations is also the same mediators that can completely destroy us if it's not regulated. So the think of cortisol, which the amygdala, when it activates and the hormone is secreted, it's a fight or flight alert system. It makes you it gets you alerted, during the situation. So if we look at it from a scientific perspective, there is research articles also that talks about how when stress is unregulated, it can be really bad for your body because there can be wear and tear, there can be diseases, and when it's chronic, it can accelerate the disease process. So stress is not the enemy, but what the enemy is staying in the stress for a long time. And that is under our control, whether we want to remain under stress for too long, because stress is actually also good. We also need stress in some form of or the other. So imagine your nervous system as a spring. It's meant to compress and release, but if it's held too long in that stretched out position, it can lose its bounce and it can lose its natural resilience. So now I want to give you all an understanding of then why do we even have stress? If I'm saying stress, yes, it's good, but then it can also destroy you, then what exactly is happening? Why do we have this in the first place? Why did we get designed in a way that we have stress and then it's good or bad for us? Who decides how to switch it on and off? So this is where I will talk about our ancestral time and our original design of ourselves. Originally, we were designed in the perfect way, and we still are in that same design. Our body is supposed to have two kinds of nervous system, which is parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system. And in our ancestral time, your 444 fathers, your ancestors who back in the day, they were living in the jungle. There was nothing else. It was just survive through hunting, eating, sleeping, mating. That's it. During that ancestral time, the sympathetic nervous system, it would get switched on for them during fight or flight response. And it was built for their survival. When our ancestors saw danger, like let's say a saber-toothed tiger or a bear or a storm, that's when their amygdala would get activated and adrenaline and cortisol would be surged in their body. Why? Because they needed to take an action. If they saw a saber-toothed tiger, they'd have to run. So their sympathetic nervous system, which is on the right side of your screen, used to be turned on for them to help them in that situation. Then, when the threat passed, the lion's gone, the storm subsided, the parasympathetic nervous system would turn on. because the threat is gone now. Now they can rest. Now they can digest. Now they can repair. Now they can sleep. So the nature would tell them, hey, it's okay. You're all right now. And then their body would slow down. Their digestion would resume. Their breathing would soften. And there was a balance between activation and restoration. So the fight or flight response was episodic for them. It was not always switched on continuously. It was very balanced. And the thing is, in our modern times, is it the same thing though? The answer is no, because I call this the modern hijack, where we're chronically activated in the sympathetic nervous system without any restoration. Today, we don't face lions or we don't see any bears in front of us. We're living in a modern world, but our body doesn't know the difference between a lion that our ancestors faced with the difference between that or a looming exam that is in front of you. It doesn't know the difference because our body, whenever our body gets stressed out, our brain is saying, threat detected, switch on the sympathetic nervous system right now because we need to deal with this. And even though we wake up, we look at our phone every morning, we're opening our bank account, we're dealing with our boss or our professor, we're having conflicts with our loved ones, or we're having exams that we don't know how to handle. All of that is the equivalent, it's the same as our ancestors facing a threat, a life-threatening threat like seeing a predator in front of them. So our body does the exact work that it's supposed to do, which is switch on the sympathetic nervous system so that it can really fight or flight. And it increases the hormones, it increases all the neurotransmitters in the brain to get them going. But then our ancestors used to have the privilege to know when to stop because the threat would go away, but we don't. We don't have any way of knowing when the stress is gone because we're constantly, consistently under stress in our modern life and in our modern world. And so our body is in emergency mode all the time without any pause button. And so this is where our responsibility is to really switch on the pause button ourselves. We need to do it ourselves because the nature, around us, everything is not quite like how it was supposed to be in the original design of life. So we actually have, I think most of you, or maybe some of you know this, we actually have 30 to 40 trillion cells in our body. And imagine that many cells, which most of them can actually respond to stress and adrenaline and cortisol and all the, I'm not even naming all the mediators. There are many stress mediators. Imagine these many number of cells responding to the stress signals. What must your body be going through internally? You might be looking all fine outside, but internally there's a storm going on. And that's when, if it is not protected, regulated, we don't switch on the pause button, that's when the body starts to go through diseases, life-threatening conditions. People can go through cardiovascular diseases, heart attacks, strokes, and even death sometimes. And not just that, your life starts to become dull. You suddenly don't have any miracles coming through, no blessings, nothing. And then you look at other people and sometimes you wonder, how are they sailing through their life? How are they so lucky? But no one is really luckier than you. You are lucky too. We all are. But we just don't know how to regulate ourselves and call in the light in our vessel, or to really regulate the cells in our body and keep them both aligned so that we can have a beautiful life. And going back to spirituality, the ancient spiritual principle, which is about the vessel, it's the same as what we were just speaking about. It's just like our nervous system. It must activate and rest. when we live only in activation system, we create too much pressure in the vessel. We're not allowing any light to come in. And so what it does is that the pressure is so much without any expansion of the vessel that it cracks and you don't receive any light. And the light is energy and it's blessing, it's abundance that it wants to flow in for you, but it can't because your vessel is too small or it's cracking under pressure. So in spiritual equivalence, it's called zimzum. That's the word. And it's a sacred contraction and expansion that creates space for the light to enter. And how do we then do this? How do we allow our vessels to grow? And the answer is through awareness. So awareness will help us scientifically, spiritually, in every aspect of your life. And so that's when we use awareness to pause in the moment of stress and hardship and pain in our lives, that's when our vessels expand. That's when our parasympathetic nervous system switches on. So it's doing both of them at the same time. So in ancestral times, the nature took care of it. It regulated them. But now in our modern time, we must consciously do what nature once did for our ancestors, which is pause, breathe, and then reflect, and then take your actions. So awareness is really our spiritual technology now that we need to use, and the way that we return to the divine, to the source, and to the blessings, and to a longer, better life, happier life. So as we learned before, stress is not the enemy. It's the unconscious stress that keeps going on and on without pausing, without stopping. And so imagine two students. Student A, who is right before an exam, he or she is freaking out and thinking, I can't handle this, I'm going to fail. So the brain instantly for student A starts to interpret that as danger and as threat. And what it then does for student A is that the brain starts to prepare him or her with all of these myriads of cellular events, hormones, neurotransmitters. And what that does is that it makes that student, although take the exam, it narrows down his or her memory or the ability to recall any information because they're so stressed out. As opposed to, let's say, student B, who is also nervous before the exam, but then his heart or her heart is also racing, but then he or she pauses in that moment and thinks, my body is gearing me up to take this test and it'll help me focus. I'm having this stress because I am meant to now sit for the exam and I'm going to use it for my own favor. So it's the same physiological response in both the students' bodies, but the outcome is different because now student B, with that pause and that breath, the brain starts to allow the recalling and the memory consolidations to open up for that student, and they end up getting a better grade. So same chemicals, different consciousness leads to different outcomes. That's why you can pretty much actually change your reality if you want, just by how you decide to think about stress and hardships. So then how in that moment do you change your reality, let's say? When you pause, what is exactly happening to you is that even for that one breath, your prefrontal cortex, which is a part of your brain that allows you to take better decision, switches on. And in spiritual terms, that pause is awareness. And the moment you step out of reaction and you go into a pause mode, you return back into your higher self. And that's also spiritually when the light starts to come into your vessel. And so whenever you have a stressful moment, just pause and think, ask yourself, am I responding to this pressure or letting it accumulate inside me? what is the invitation here? Why am I having this stress? And when you do that, you've pretty much moved from autopilot, which is your default program of reacting. You've switched from that to presence, to someone who has control and power over their own selves. And so stress and hardship is life's pressure for expansion through awareness. When you're aware, you make the space for that you need to allow the expansion to happen consciously. And I want you all to think of a metaphor here, which is like that of a potter. When the clay on the potter's wheel is spinning, the wheel is the world, and it's constantly spinning. It doesn't stop for anybody. And it's applying pressure, right? But it's your hands that is your awareness. And you use your hands to shape the clay, to make it form into a form. So without your hands, it's a spinning mud. Everything is a mess. But when you use your hand, it becomes art. You actually start to create something that you want. So I want you to do that, the same thing for your life. Without allowing your autopilot mode to dictate your life, you dictate your own life. And you can do that with awareness. Now the question is, how do we take this awareness into everyday life? I see someone's hand raised. Are we going to do this at the end, or?
Well, just let's see. Would be good to leave about 20 minutes of questions at the end, so maybe 5 more minutes of the presentation. Is that possible?
Yeah, that sounds good. So, Suntum, we will take your question after around 5 minutes. So we often think that spirituality, happens on top of the mountains, right? Like monks who are sitting in yoga positions are the only ones who can embody something like that. But no, clarity happens in motion. It happens in your everyday life. It's in the middle of deadlines. It's in the middle of noise. It's in the middle of distraction. It's in the middle of conflict and hardships. That's where you need to bring in awareness, not on just on top of, a mountaintop or on your bed in the morning. No, you have to have it at every point of your life. And so um, the way to embody the awareness is to use three anchors. One is your awareness anchor, which is your pause button. Actively try to pause every time something stressful, something bad, something hard happens to you. And that will turn stress into information, and it will help you decide, what am I supposed to do now? How is the stress? Why is stress coming to my life and in my scene right now? How can I use that? Second is your body anchor, which is a scan. Be aware of where exactly you feel tight. Is it in your jaw, your body, your chest, your stomach, your shoulders? Where exactly is stress hiding? And try to relax that spot through breathing. And in the last step which is the purpose anchor, ask yourself why. Why am I stressed out right now? Where did the stress come from? Which point today that did the stress come from? And observe it. And ask yourself, what is it trying to teach me? What is it activating within me? As soon as you do that, your question, that one question will shift you from chaos to clarity, and that's how you change your reality and your everyday outcomes. So if you remember one thing from today, then let it be this, which is awareness is your first act of freedom. Without this, there's nothing you can do. You will run on autopilot, which you don't want. So stress doesn't always mean that something is wrong. It's an invitation for you to actually expand yourself. And just to wrap up and come to a full circle of what we've done today is we've understood the neuroscience, which gives you an understanding of the language of how you can navigate from stress and into clarity, into focus. We've also looked at it from a spiritual perspective, which now gives meaning to the reason why we have stress and the purpose for it, and how you can take this and transform panic to peace. And lastly, we've taken the tool that we have. All of us have this with us, which is awareness, and something that will protect you from chronic stress and will support your regulation and your productivity every day. And yeah, so in the last 2 minutes, I want us all to do a guided visualization, after which we can go to question answers. Now, I want all of you to close your eyes as I speak. Have your eyes closed for a moment. Allow your body to settle into stillness. Feel the chair that you're sitting on holding you, supporting you, the ground that is keeping you up, reminding you that you are safe. Now, while you're breathing, think of the weight of your current stress that you might be having today. Let's not think about it as chaos, rather, let's think of it as energy. It's just a stress energy. Imagine that stress that you're having today swirling up inside you like water, and that edges of your body is trying to expand so that the swirling water can come out and take shape and form. And while you do that, I want you to breathe deeply from your nose. Inhale. And imagine as you exhale, your vessel, your body expanding. Slowly expanding the vessel so that the water can also expand and take form. And with every breath, the more space that forms within you, the walls softening, stretching, expanding, widening. It's helping you now flow smoothly and harmoniously, like the river finally finding its path. And I want you to finally now imagine yourself as that vessel that expanded, as a luminous vessel. And it's radiant, it's calm, it's expanded. And now, because you've expanded into your space around you, the light is finally able to come in. And that light that is coming in is your blessing, it's your abundance, it's your miracles, it's the regulation in your body. And lastly, while you do that, while keeping your eyes closed, I want you to tell yourself this, that I am strong enough to hold what is within me. And I expand my vessel with grace. And I'm willing to receive all the light that is to come for me. And when you open your eyes, bring that expanded calm with you and take it for the rest of your day. And this is what it means to live in your expanded vessel, where you consciously just visualize your vessel expanding and yourself expanding. That's all you have to do. And yes, it may sound very simple, but that's how it is. That is all you need. Just a little bit of awareness, consciousness, a bit of visualization, and you're good to go. And so now I want you all to not avoid pressure, but to become someone who can hold more pressure strongly without breaking. So every breath from now on is just another act for you to expand yourself. And with that, we did that already. And, for anyone who may be having stress moving on forward, because awareness will not end when we end this lecture right now. We're on the last slide right now. Your awareness is not going to end as we end the lecture. It will actually begin when we finish the lecture and we go onto our daily life. That's when it'll start for you. And so to help you remember and to recenter anytime that stress arises, I've created a mini guide for you. um, and it's completely written by me, and it takes only 3 minutes. It's a short written journey that you can open whenever you feel lost or you feel stressed out, and it's written in a way that I would say it to you if I were beside you and guiding you one breath at a time. So you can scan the QR code if you want the mini guide, and it will be on your phone or on your laptop always. So anyways, thank you so much. Let's go on to questions now.
All right. We have a lot of questions coming in. I want to get one from a question was written to me, so I'll pass it on to you now from Enoch. So does excessive interpersonal bonding through present day interconnect like social media, does that cause stress that is hard to control?
It depends on what the social media is feeding you. Let's say if you are constantly watching news that is bad, yes, it will cause stress. So your algorithm is basically your mirror. Everybody's algorithm is different. It's a version of themselves, actually. It's an extended version of themselves. So your algorithm is going to feed you what you're thinking of mostly. If you are a calm, centered person, your social media might just feed you things that are more positive, that helps you and helps you learn, helps you recenter. But otherwise, yes, it can cause stress. That's one of the biggest and the most main ways that we get stressed out these days with social media, because we're constantly comparing, we're constantly measuring, we're thinking we don't have this, we need this. That's stress as well.
Okay, there's going to be a lot of questions coming in, so we'll have to make questions and answers fairly quick. Okay, so can you relate this to sports competition?
Sports competition, yeah. So let's say we have two athletes, and they're going through, right before they go on that race, they have that stress turned on because adrenaline is coming on. What it does is that physically, biologically, the adrenaline pumps their muscles up in a way that they can really speed through the race, or do the cricket or football, soccer, anything that they're involved with. So it's good. That's where the stress is actually useful. But then it's kind of like the ancestral situation where once they're done with the sports, they're back to restoration. And athletes do it really well because their coaches help them to really go into repair mode after that. But it's actually us, the everyday life people who uses phone all the time, watches something stressful, fights with loved ones, or going through exams like most students are here, and don't regulate it. They're the ones more in danger, I would say.
Here's one from Adams. Is stress voluntary or involuntary?
Very good question. It that was the talk today. You can make it voluntary, because I didn't actually show an image because we're running out of time, but this is actually a scientific paper that shows how, if you're more aware, spirituality in this figure means basically someone who can really be aware, calm themselves down when they're stressed out, and they can actually take voluntary actions of how much stressed out they want to be. They can literally you can tell yourself, I choose to switch off my stress right now. I'm going to bed, I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to just breathe right now. That little guided visualization we did, honestly, that is enough to to really slow down your cells in your body. And I know this because I'm speaking confidently about this, is because I saw all of these things under the microscope. Your body, the cells are going through enormous amount of the cascades of cellular events that get slowed down when you do that little bit of just pausing and meditating and visualizing. So yes, it can be voluntary. You can choose how much you want to control it.
So can you meet stress and work your way through the stress using the parasympathetic nervous system then?
Yes, you can regulate your nervous system through some very well-known scientific exercises, which I actually help people, I coach people to do that. And there are many different ways that you can regulate it and switch on your sympathetic nervous system and work your way up. And what that would do eventually is that your parasympathetic nervous system will be more inclined to switch on at stressful times, which our ancestors used to be able to do very well, but we can't. But as we work our way up with it by knowing how to regulate our dysregulated nervous system, it will get stronger. And what then happens at the end is that it becomes automatic. You no longer have to sit down and actively, tell yourself to switch off. It will just switch off for you. You will become invincible.
Okay, now we go to some questions. Let's go to Suntum first.
Mhm.
Suntum, go ahead and activate your microphone.
Yeah, Mister, good afternoon. Good afternoon for all classmates there. I'm very happy for this class. My orders is to make one purpose for next class, can be next month, is to have one theme about the psychology and the anatomy of our body. That will be very important for to understand something what happened for our bodies in parts of the blades. Because we
Mm.
know the blades function is to get the urine inside of the our body. When the blade is full, normally the urine must go out for our environmental. My doubts in this case is I know the term very well. What happens when we made is can be 2 months, 3 months without to make the sex because I know the blade is the urine with the sperm is the same place. They have been harmonized in the same place. Can you comment for that side? Is
Would you be able to repeat that question? I didn't quite catch that. Did you mean how
I
women?
say
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about in terms of the anatomic and the physiology of our body. Normally
Okay.
in the blade is our urine is inside of the blade. When it's full, normally the urine must go out to our environment. Imagine when we made this two more or three more without to make sex. Normally, when I know the our sperm is harmonized inside of the blades. What happens when we have the blade, the urines in same moments we have the sperm. In many moments we have exit, we have extract, but many men don't can't understand that. Can you have any comment for that?
Samir, are you understanding the question?
Unfortunately, I am not. Would you be able to?
What I'm understanding is let's say the bladder and the where the sperm and the urine
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
are like vessels, and when they are full, do they need to release?
Oh, I see. Okay, I get your question now, Symptom. Um, Interesting question, actually. And you can think about that as a way of our body wanting to release. But I would say it depends on what exactly you're talking about. Is it just urine? Then yeah, you want to pass it. Otherwise, that urine
Depend
can
for
be
case.
that
Depend
it.
for case. For man, depend.
Yeah, okay. So if it is, let's say, sex, if it's sperm ejaculation that you're talking about, then a lot of people think that that's a way to release stress, but no, not necessarily. That actually is not proven in any way that it can release stress for a long time. Maybe just for the short term, but there's a lot of power in holding it in actually in another sense, which a lot of people may not know about. It's called sperm retention. You can look it up if you have time, but sperm retention is really really good for your body as well. So not necessarily. That's why I said, like, it really depends if you're talking about urine, if you're talking about just sperm. It differs, really.
To put this into context, Suntum studies public health with a focus on HIV and AIDS, so that sexual transmission is a big part of his research.
Right. Yes, and
And
it's a
so
very,
how do you control that sexual urge, right?
yeah. Honestly, I've read about sperm retention and and abstinence for a few months, and it really blew my mind about how much power there is to really control that. And since Suntum, you're in the topic of HIV, you're studying that. You can teach people how it is beneficial to control that urge, because it expands your vessel. Spiritually, it's actually expanding your vessel. Why? Because you're not reacting to your instant urges. Because yes, sexual urges are pretty much instant gratification, that you perform and it's over, it's done. But then when you hold that vessel, it's actually expanding. And so you're only allowing it for something that is more meaningful, let's say. And that's when your vessel will be receiving more light. So spiritually, you can talk about that, and biologically, you can talk about sperm retention in a way that when you're resisting that urge, there is no stress hormones that's coming up. In fact, your body is getting regulated more. So it's also good for your body biologically. And there are plenty of scientific articles that supports this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
And
you.
and just the last to answer that last question, Dr. Lambert, you asked, how do we control that urge? It's the awareness of how good it is for us. If we know that, then it's more about our personal choice whether we want to use that or not.
So
Yeah.
what you go through you get the awareness, which is what was the anchor? The first anchor?
Um, the let's see, I think you mean, oh, the three anchors. It was the awareness anchor. Yeah.
So you get the awareness anchor of the urge, and then you do a body scan, and maybe you feel that tension somewhere, maybe
Yeah.
even in the bladder area. And
Mm-hmm.
then you get to that purpose anchor of say, why?
Why?
And you
Yes.
reflect upon, why do I have this urge? How do I deal with it? Do you start asking like reflective questions of what do I need to do here?
Exactly. Yes. And that question, that why question, that is where the secret is. Because as soon as you ask yourself why, you have an answer. Because I want to let this out, let's say, or I want to really fight and say something bad to this person who just had a conflict with me. All of this, even wanting to let out sperm ejaculation, everything is very instant gratification. It helps you feel good in that short moment of time, but that's quite bad for spiritually for your vessel, because that's when it shatters, meaning it cannot you're only going to be in that downgraded version of your vessel, because you keep you know it's think of it like a video game. The character needs to be upgraded every time through resilience, through control. But every time we give into our instant gratification, we don't really upgrade. But when we ask ourselves that last anchor, the purpose anchor, which is why do I want to do this, you will almost pretty much always have this answer: because I want to really release it right now. But then when you pause and you do a little bit of a recentering through that guide that it's out there, that's it. It only takes a little bit of time for you to really recenter, and you will often feel like, yeah, I actually don't want it anymore. That's why you will see when you fight or you get into conflicts, after you have a shower or you sleep, you feel quite different to how you felt the previous day. So yeah.
Okay, we have questions. We'll go to Ismail. Go ahead and make your questions fast. We got to get through a lot in about 5-10 minutes. Okay, let's go.
That's good.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. Yeah, good morning, the presenter. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the presentation.
You're
I
welcome.
really gain a lot from it. God bless you. Because
You're-
God really used it to speak to me.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you
My
for the
pleasure.
presentation. Yeah. All right. This is my question. By considering the relationship between awareness, mindfulness, and spirituality, what ethical considerations arise when promoting mindfulness practices in diverse cultural contexts? Sorry.
What exactly do you mean by diverse context here? Do you mean cultural context
Yeah,
or?
diverse cultural contexts.
Okay,
Mm.
good question. You know, it's funny. We all think that our we have diversity in our culture because it's so different. Someone's Christian, someone's Muslim, someone's a Jew, and everyone's practices might be different. But the practice that I was talking about, the most ancient one, that is the root of everything. It's what gave birth to all the religion. We're actually all culturally, religiously, we're all meant to follow the same framework. And so, ethically, to answer your question, it's really about how where you are and who you're surrounded by. Let's say if you are bringing in a different concept or a different practice into a space where people might get a little bit of get a little bit uncomfortable with what you're promoting, then you might want to be mindful of how you promote that or how you introduce that. You might want to do it a little slowly. Ethically speaking, we're all meant to follow the same framework. We all came from the same source. We are just split and divided, unfortunately, because we created that separation. And so we need to, just to warm up and help each other. We I would This is what I would do, that I would warm up to them first, help them, or help I would want to understand their ethical perspective, their cultural perspective, and respect it, and then see where we can merge, where we can find a common ground. And the spiritual framework that I'm talking about, it's the most ancient one. It's one that if I start speaking about it to you, you you will feel like you know this. You know why? Because your soul knows it. It's a soul language. It's something that is deep within our DNA, it's in our blood, but we forgot. It's like a language that we know, but we forgot. That's why when we speak about it, you'll feel like there's something that feels like I know about this concept. What is it? It's because we all came from that same family, of that same spiritual branch. But nowadays in the modern world, we might want to just, keep respect and see where we can merge with other people with different perspectives and different backgrounds. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Let's go
Thank
to
you.
Usman.
Thank you.
Usman, go
Welcome.
ahead and activate your microphone. Usmane, Usman, are you
I
there?
think
No.
he's away.
Okay, we'll go to Wilson. Wilson, go ahead and activate your microphone.
Hello, good afternoon. It's actually afternoon here. My question is very short. In terms of in a working place or in the work of place, is the procrastination part of stress or just laziness?
Interesting question. Okay. Well, that's deep. The procrastination is coming from stress. The question is, why are you procrastinating? Why are you procrastinating? It's not because people think procrastination means you're lazy. No, you're procrastinating because you're scared of something. You're scared of facing that thing that you're not starting. It could be anything. Are you not starting your business? Are you not starting your exam preparation? And as you said, workplace. Why is it? Think about the task. Why is that task freaking you out? What's going to happen if you finish the task? Will something bad happen to you if you finish it? Will you get maybe if you finish the task, it'll be time to show it to your boss, and your boss will not like it, and you just don't want to face that, and then you just end up not doing it. That's procrastination. It's not laziness.
It sounds like
If
you're saying procrastination is when you get to fight or flight. Procrastination is flight.
Yes, exactly. It's flight because you're running away from the situation, and people think that it's laziness. It's not. It's actually underlying fear that's holding you back from doing that action for some reason. Yeah. So I'll give you a small example. If you're in a 9 to 5, you really hate your job and you want to start your business. You want to be free, have financial freedom. You want to start your business, but you're not starting it. You prefer, even if you hate your 9 to 5, you prefer staying in your 9 to 5 because you're too scared to try out to start your business because you think you'll fail. That is procrastination too. So it's not laziness, it's fear.